Hi, good morning or good afternoon. And my name is Justin Dorfman, and I'm here to talk to you about different ways you can contribute to open source. Every community needs people with a diverse set of skills to grow. In the open source community, these faces are just some of the contributors who have made huge contributions outside of a text editor. They are lawyers, they're entrepreneurs, executives, program managers, journalists, community managers, publishers, designers, authors, and they all help sustain the open source community. Just don't take my word for it. VM Brasser is an author and open source advocate, and she says it best. Important Foss stuff happens off GitHub too. Sorry, Brian. The point of this keynote is to show you that there are other ways to contribute to open source if code isn't your thing. And I have 10 minutes, so I will focus on three, starting with design. When it comes to design, there are many different ways you can contribute. For example, Ashley McNamara makes these awesome gopher illustrations, which I'm sure you've seen on a laptop or two. Ashley's work is ingrained into the Golang community, and rightfully so. Today, we will be focusing more on illustrations than any other design disciplines, sorry. So let me ask you, why is a logo important for open source projects? Well, it's because it communicates ownership, quality, and values. It's imprinted on your READMEs, documentation, social media profiles, merch, and in the minds of your users. For 25 years, this was the Bash logo, and it did not communicate ownership, quality, and values, even though the project and team had all three. As the art director, I worked with a graphic designer, the Bash maintainer, and the Free Software Foundation. And for the past 5 years, the Bash project has had an identity for its Wikipedia page, thousands of videos on YouTube, and of course, onesies, stickers, and other merch. The Z shell, also known as ZSH, was another popular shell that did not communicate ownership, quality, and values very well, even though the Z shell project and team has all three. They went from 30 years of this to this. And a designer by the name of Geist, who is a prolific non-code open source contributor, and I worked with the Z shell team for the past few months. We finished up a couple of weeks ago. And so here you have it, the new Z shell logo. Please note that they are adding the new logo to all their properties, so it might take some time for them to get that all up. I asked Paul Stevenson, the creator of ZSH, why is a logo important? And basically said, after 32 years of not having one, they finally have something to show the world. It's this way, ZSH is more than just a word. And I thought that was pretty special. Here's the bottom line. I don't think it's a coincidence that the most popular projects on the donation platform, Open Collective, with the biggest yearly budgets, have a great modern looking logo. And think about it. Who is going to give a project money without the perception of ownership, quality, and values? Not a lot. Speaking about money, let's talk about the most awkward topic in the open source community, which is fundraising. This is Henry Zhu. He is a Babel.js maintainer and an open source fundraising machine with an estimated annual budget for about $294,000. Maintaining Babel is Henry's full-time job, and two other maintainers as well. He left a comfy job at Adobe to do open source full-time. If your company uses Babel, consider becoming a sponsor. In 2020, the company Indeed sponsored Babel with their Foss contributor fund. Dwayne O'Brien and Jade Applegate managed the Foss Contributor Fund. It's a program framework. It's a program framework at Indeed, created at Indeed, that other organizations can use to help subsidize Foss projects. What's cool is it puts the sponsorship decisions in the hands of employees who are active in the open source community. By the end of this year, 2022, Indeed's fund will be responsible for distributing over $500,000 to Foss projects they use. Best of all, if you're interested in running one at your own company, Jade and Dwayne will help you. In fact, I'm going to be contacting them pretty soon. You can also head over to the GitHub repo and read the docs on how everything works. And speaking of docs, as you know, documentation can make or break a project. I never met someone as passionate about documentation than Eric Holscher. Eric founded Read the Docs, which is an open source free software documentation hosting platform for over 80,000 open source projects. He also founded Ethical Ads, which is a privacy preserving ad network for developers that sustains Read the Docs, as well as Write the Docs, which is a global community of people who care deeply about documentation. For those wanting to get serious about documentation and contributing to it, you should consider joining their Slack community at writethedocs.org/Slack. And you can join a community of very passionate doc writers. I asked Eric, what advice does he have for new documentation contributors? He said, the best advice he has is to find projects that you're using and contributing to them. And while that might seem simple and a quick answer, it's absolutely true. For example, if you use Jupyter projects, they have plenty of opportunities for doc writers. Just search their issues on GitHub and look for the following labels: documentation, help wanted, and new user friendly, and you'll get started there. Last but not least, Eric has a podcast where he and his co-creator, Portia Burton, interview documentation experts from companies such as Google, Splunk, Apollo, and Redocly. You can find Let's Talk Docs on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. And by the way, that awesome cover art was illustrated by Errol Fox, who is an open source designer, researcher, and sustainer out of Bristol, UK. Hi, Errol. And there you have it. 3 ways you can make non-code contributions. You see, in the open source community, you could throw an apple and hit a developer. However, what the open source community desperately needs is more non-code contributors like designers, fundraisers, and doc writers. Such talents projects desperately need. You might not get a green square, but you will make an impactful contributions to the community. And for that, I thank you for your time. I hope to see your non-code contributions. Please DM me, email them to me. I really want to see them, and I'll feature them in my newsletter. And for those who do make for those who do make code contributions, check out sourcegraph.com. They're pretty awesome. Again, my name is Justin Dorfman, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Justin, great job. Wonderful presentation. You referenced a lot of really good people in your presentation: Errol Fox, Dwayne, and Jade at Indeed, Henry Zhu. All of them are past speakers at our events, so we have a personal relationship with them, and we've actually had a chance to meet all of them face to face. Henry spoke at Open Source 101 last year, as an example. Errol is a multi-year speaker as well. So anyway, great presentation. We really appreciate that. We think the message is vital. We need non-code contributors to open source. It was a really solid presentation.
Well, so thank you. Yeah, thank you and Danny for giving me the opportunity. I know it's not the most popular subject, but I really do believe that more, especially everyone here, maybe new people coming in, just we need more than just code. So join us.